Hi, we're at a very special place. I'm here with my friend Mike in my arms here, this wonderful friendly snake. If you don't like snakes, you should really get over that because they're very nice and friendly. So we're in a very special place in the Santa Cruz Mountains where animals come to retire. These are animals that can no longer live in the wilderness, and they come here for loving care for the rest of their lives. But while they're here, they have a job to do also. They go out into the community and to many, many functions, mostly schools, to teach our kids about animals and about nature and about this wonderful world out here. So thanks, and we'll see you in a few minutes. Stay tuned. Hi, good morning. We have Steve Carlin out here at Wildlife Associates. We'll be visiting here this morning, and Steve's going to give us a little background on this marvelous, marvelous place in the Santa Cruz Mountains. So Steve, how did you kind of get started in this?
That's a really long story, but make it a little shorter.
Good.
It started when I was in 3rd grade.
Okay.
Behind my house was a lot, which was very unusual in our neighborhood because it's an older neighborhood, it's beautiful old homes. But that lot became my universe. I knew every raccoon that walked through it, every opossum, every insect, every butterfly, every bird. They all became my friends. And my best friends were these 2 robins, who I got closer and closer to the tree. I eventually climbed the tree, and after about a month I was sitting on the tree limb and they would land right next to me and build their nest.
Oh, neat.
I saw them lay the eggs for the babies. I saw the babies hatch as I was upside down, hanging by my feet from the upper limb. And once the parents left me alone with the babies so I can protect them while they hunted for worms and brought them back to feed the babies. But unfortunately one day I came back and there was smoke billowing up and loud noise, and a bulldozer was crushing everything that was alive and killing my little world so they can build a house. Well, I remember Superman when I was very young, and I ran up in front of this huge bulldozer, a 3rd grader, bright red hair, put my hands on my hips, put my hand forward, and I started yelling, "Stop, you can't do this, you can't kill my friends." And the baby birds were dead on the ground in front of me, and I was crying and screaming, "Stop, you're destroying my world." And from that moment on, I made an oath that I would spend the rest of my life teaching people about their connections to living things, so we would honor, respect, and enrich the lives around us instead of destroying them with callous.
When did you start this operation?
In 1980, I founded Wildlife Associates. And I was a park ranger and environmental education specialist before, but I really saw the need for going into the schools and teaching the kids because they needed to have their perceptions changed. Because a lot of us think that nature is the backdrop for human drama, but nature is the substance that keeps us all alive as human beings on this planet. Nature is what gives us our food, water, shelter, and air, the basic necessities of life. And if we destroy that, we're literally destroying ourselves and our sustaining systems of life on this planet.
What is your mission out here?
The mission is basically what those robins taught. Honor, respect all living things. Empathy and caring for all of life. When we go into the schools, we're teaching children new ways of seeing the world. When they walk into that school assembly, maybe the hawk flying overhead was looked at as a flying rock, no emotions, just something flying by. When they walk out of the assembly room, they realize that bird has emotions, has feelings, has a consciousness, has a life all its own. And these living beings live around us. Now there's a word, beings. Human beings, we don't say animal beings, I do. Because I see them as individual animal beings with deep, rich emotions, deep, rich, vibrant life and memories. And these creatures live all around us, living beings. And if we start to see the world full of living beings, our life is enriched. Our life is really enriched because our study of science is actually the study of the life that keeps us alive and life that sustains in our life as a human being and our interactions between all of existence.
Well, that's reflected in what you have done here. How many different animals do you have here?
We have about 50 different animals. And we have animals, we have some baby animals that come in. And remember, these are animals that have been mistreated, abused, they're unwanted. Sometimes if they're born in captivity, they can never live in the wild. So we take them in and give them a home. And it's not their fault that they can't live in the wild. So we enrich their lives, respect their lives, and even when they're at the end of their life, their death is given to them with dignity because they're part of my family. They're my babies.
You take such great care of them here. What type of a staff, and how do you figure out what to feed all the different varieties of animals?
Our staff are wonderful professionals, environmental educators, biologists, people that know how to care for these animals. And there's a science of taking care of these animals. There's zoos and wildlife facilities all over the world that have done this massive research on nutrition. And new things are coming out all the time. So our staff is continually on these listservs on the internet, finding out new information about diets. People are asking us about what we're feeding the animals. And also finding out about enrichment, because as important as the keeping their body alive and active is keeping their mind alive and active. So giving them enrichment, things to play with, things to get curious about, things to get excited about, things to give them good stress about, just like we all do. And we also have assisted living for the elderly animals. They are retired from their jobs of educating the public. We still love them, we still nurture them, and we have like assisted living, and we can use help from the public to help us care for these animals even better so they can live out their lives, again, in dignity.
Well, you have a communication with these animals, don't you? You can almost find out what they want.
You know, it's really amazing. I was talking to one of your staff, Chuck, just earlier, and he was telling about an amazing story about a dog who really saved his life, who gave him the enrichment and gave him the love that he needed, and woke him up from a depression that he was in because his wife passed away. These animals, no matter what kind of animal, the bonds we have with them are so deep and so special and so enriching for all of us that when you are paying attention to the animal, not projecting what you want to see on the animal, but actually paying attention to that animal, as much as you pay attention to your spouse or your kids or your parents, if not more, you begin to understand what their needs are, they begin to understand what your needs are, and it's that connection you have at that moment that is so profound, it changes both beings forever. So by paying attention, we do understand what they need.
Now your staff, do they come here to be educated or like do an internship and then move on and then you have some permanent staff?
Mainly permanent staff. It takes so much time to train the permanent staff. And today, with the young adults coming into the workplace, most of them don't look at it like we did when we went to work. We tried to find one place and have a career for life. So they come in and they'll stay 3, 4, 5 years. And well, you'll be interviewing Michelle. She's been here well over 20 years.
Wow.
So she breaks that mold. Great. She's an amazing person. So I hope we have a good discussion with her later. But these are just wonderful human beings. Because people ask me, who do you hire? I say, I hire wonderful human beings. Of course, they have to understand how to care for these animals and have to learn how to educate the public. But we have to start with the core. That a wonderful human being can do anything in this world.
How many programs do you do each year, roughly?
We do about, we reach about 300 schools, reaching about 500 or 600 programs per year.
Wow.
We reach over 300,000 students in the schools doing the educational programs every year. Plus, we reach over 100 at-risk youth. We have an amazing at-risk youth program here on site at the sanctuary.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that later. I know we don't have time for the story, but we're going to put in a link at the end of the program for people to find that story of Susie Bear, which was recently published. I had the whole staff here read it before the program to really get a feeling for what's happening here.
Susie Bear was my love of my life. 330-pound California black bear.
Yes, that's
little hairy, but she was very beautiful.
A wonderful story. Well, I'm going to be meeting with Michelle now, and we're going to talk about some of the programs. I'm going to see some more of the animals. And thank you for everything that you do, Steve.
Thank you, Phil.
Okay. Hello, everybody. We're here with Michelle Durant, who's the wildlife manager of this wonderful organization. And who do we have here?
This is George. George is a tamandua, which is a type of anteater. They're actually called a lesser anteater, not because they're less important, but there's simply less of them. They're one of the smallest of the anteaters, so that's why they are called that.
How do the kids react to an anteater?
The kids are pretty amazed. I mean, they've never seen anything like it since this is an animal that comes from the rainforest. And because he moves and he's busy and he's something so extraordinary, so unique, the kids are fascinated from the minute he comes out.
Well, make believe that camera is your audience. What would you be telling the kids about the anteater?
The importance of any animal in the rainforest, including an animal like George, is the role that they play, the job that they do. His job is to, bless you, his job is to eat ants. What he does is he comes down out of the trees at night and he uses his big sharp claws to tear open an anthill. He'll stick his long tongue, he actually has a 17-inch long tongue, down into the ant hole, and he'll suck up all the ants. Not necessarily all of them. The soldier ants that protect the anthill, they come out and they start to bite and sting the anteater. And then he'll move to another anthill and do the same thing. Tear open the anthill, stick his tongue down, and slurp up a bunch of the ants. He will move from anthill to anthill throughout the night, making sure that he has plenty of food. Thousands and thousands of ants in one single night. But what the kids can learn from that is that he doesn't eat all of the ants. Because those soldier ants come out and they protect the territory, the next night when he returns, there are ants again. The ants that survived have laid eggs. Those eggs hatch and now there are ants. Everything out in nature is a cycle. If you take everything, if you consume everything in your path, there's nothing for the next time. So the anteater and all of the other animals in the rainforest know about protecting. They know about not consuming more than they can leave behind, so they have something for the next day. It's an important lesson for us to remember because our tendency is to sometimes to devour everything in our wake. The animals can teach us that that's not the best thing to do.
So a school wanted to have a program come to, would they just call up here?
They would. They would call the office. Shelley is our office manager. She has a database. We keep track of which schools we've been to, which schools we haven't, which programs they've seen, so they see something new and interesting each time that we visit the schools. And each program, we have 5 different school programs. Each program has a different set of animals, so it's always interesting, always educational, always exciting for the kids to see a different group of animals that they didn't see the time before.
Now, you've been working here for, what, 20 years?
24 years in May.
24 years.
It was 24 years in May.
I'm told you have a very special relationship with the animals.
So I like to think so. You know, part of my job as a manager is to raise these animals and to train the animals and to work with the staff so they can also work with these animals. So the biggest part of my job in many ways is to get to know the animals, their personalities, their quirks, what they need socially and emotionally so that they have a long, happy, healthy life. It's easy to know what an animal eats. It's not easy to know what will make them comfortable and secure to be able to stand in front of a bunch of strangers and to sit nice and still and feel safe. And so a big part of our job is to make sure that we meet those needs of the animals, and that's part of what I do.
And what feedback do you get from the kids?
The kids love, like I said, the kids absolutely love George. He likes to make a mess. When they see his tongue, it's like a big flat piece of spaghetti. That's pretty exciting. He often drops food on the floor, so that's really interesting. You know, anything that he does that is unexpected or interesting gets their attention, and then they remember him, and then they remember his story as well.
And the lesson.
And the lesson about how anteaters, you know, keep nature healthy and alive out in the wilderness.
Okay, we'll be right back, and Michelle will have another creature for us and another message for us. Stay tuned.
It is. All right. You can snip.
Okay, we're back with Michelle and her friend, which is a silver fox?
Gray fox.
A gray fox named Tahoe. So tell us something about the fox.
So, well, this is Tahoe. Tahoe is a gray fox. Gray foxes are one of the 4 foxes found here in California. They're the only ones that climb trees. That gives them the unique ability to find food below the ground, on the ground, or up above the ground. And Tahoe is an incredible ambassador for our at-risk programs that we do that we do on site for young people.
Explain the at-risk program.
What we do is we have 7 different groups that come out to Wildlife Associates. They come onto our facility. And these are young people that have had traumas and tragedies that most of us can't even comprehend. And not only are they dealing with them, but they're trying to learn how to get past them and to overcome them. And so we use the animals at Wildlife Associates. Their stories in many ways parallel what the kids have gone through, abandonment and injury and the lack of trust that they have in their world. And so we use the animals as teachers to have the kids understand the parallels between what these animals have gone through and what they have. For instance, with Tahoe, we had a group that was out just a couple of months ago, and they asked to see the fox again. And when I asked why they wanted to see the fox, they said what really meant a lot to them was when we talked about how this fox and his brother lived with us because rocks were thrown at them. And so they're separated from their mom, but they came to Wildlife Associates, and we became their family. And they really liked the lesson that family doesn't just have to be the group of people that you're born into, but family can be the people that you choose to let into your world, into your life, so that you have a better place and that you have a support system, people who bring you up instead of pull you down. And each animal that comes to Wildlife Associates has to make that choice to allow us into their world, to have that relationship and to build that trust. And the kids really understand that lesson when they see animals like the fox or some of our other animals that have clearly gone through some physical trauma but have opened their hearts and opened their minds to having a relationship with all of us at Wildlife Associates, and then travel around as well.
Is this most likely their first experience with nature?
In most cases, these kids have never been out of the city. When they come up our driveway and they see this big open space with these rolling hills, they think they've left the planet. This is a completely different world to them. They don't see cars going by, they don't hear sirens, there aren't big, tall skyscrapers and office buildings. It's a quiet place for them to become quiet inside for themselves as well. So they really understand the concept of this is a sanctuary for the animals, this is a sanctuary for them as well, to feel safe and to learn to trust. And not to tear down their walls, because those walls keep them safe, but to lower them a little to let some people and some animals into their hearts. And that's the goal of the at-risk programs that we have.
And what feedback do you get from those students?
I have seen kids who come out here, and the first couple of times, the first couple of minutes sometimes, it's hard to get them off the van, out of the vehicles, because they're so uncomfortable, so nervous. They have their arms across their chest, they're just puffy-chested, they're not willing to do anything. And by the end of the first day, I've seen some of them cry. They are just so moved by the animals and by what they get to experience here at Wildlife Associates that it's taken them, you know, way beyond where they ever thought they would get. We had one high school group that was out, and their very first session, one of the young men said, you know, I've had counselors and therapists for over 6 years. I've done more work internally today than I have in all of those years.
Ah.
So
how many programs have you put on for at risk?
So, well, each group has a different size. Some of them are 5 to 10, some of them are 15 to 20. That's about the max. We have 7 that we are running this fall. They come out typically once a month or twice a month for a full day. So it's an ongoing relationship with the kids as well. So they see the same facility, they see the same wildlife staff, and they get to meet different animals.
In the this program and also in the educational program, how does the new curriculum for schools affect this program? Does this tie in?
Absolutely. We can tie the standards, the new standards in because we've been teaching them all along. We are simply, you know, maybe changing some of the verbiage so it's more overtly clear that we are, you know, using standard-based vocabulary, but the lessons about connections and the lessons about the natural world are what we've been doing for more than 30 years already.
Tell us something about the groups, like high school or middle school or whatever they are, and how do they contact you, or how do they get here?
So most of the groups that we work with are middle school and high school. We do have 1 or 2 adult groups that we've worked with in the past as well. In some cases, their counselors or teachers have experience with Wildlife Associates, either visiting their schools or they've worked with us in different facets, different arenas. Some of them we sought them out and created a program for them in particular. So there's a variety of reasons, but the first step for any program is to contact Wildlife Associates, and then we can see, you know, about developing a program. Each program is slightly different depending on the student population or adult population that comes to visit.
Ah, thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Michelle will be back one more time with another one of the wonderful creatures here for another message. Stay tuned. Okay. Well, we're back with Michelle with Luna is an owl, which is very obvious, and she's going to tell us the rest of that part. But that part, and then why is Luna here, and how did Luna get here?
Luna came to live with us at Wildlife Associates because as a young bird, a fledgling, she was learning how to fly, and she flew across a yard, and she actually flew into a vehicle. And the impact of hitting that truck actually caused her pupil to dilate. So she's actually blind on that side. So you can see she has, nice. She has one big yellow eye like she's supposed to have, and the other eye is black. So without having sight in that eye, she would not be able to navigate through the forest. She would not be able to judge how close or far the mouse is. She would miss the mouse. She wouldn't survive very long. So that's how she came to live with us. And we use her in a lot of our weekend and adult programs to really teach people about our connection with the wildlife that live in and around the neighborhoods where we are. You know, this is a native bird to California, and her job at night is to go hunting for rats and mice.
What kind of an owl is this?
Great horned owl.
A great horned owl.
Yeah.
Do they get bigger than this, or is that?
Luna's pretty small.
Yeah.
Because she was injured when she was so young, most of the energy that would have gone into growth went into recovery. So she's pretty tiny. She actually weighs less than 1 pound.
Wow, that's all feathers?
It's all feathers. Exactly.
Okay, Luna, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell us about the adult program? I know nothing about it, even though I'm familiar with some of the other programs.
So, well, we are fortunate enough that we actually have a variety of different adult programs that we offer. We have meditation events. We have classes about different kinds of animals so that people can learn about rainforest animals, or they can come learn about birds. They can come learn about exotic animals as well as animals in our front or backyard. And it really gives people a chance to get to know animals on a very different level than just seeing them in their front or backyard. It's about learning about the important role these animals have in our daily lives. A predator like an owl will catch rats and mice that destroy our food and carry disease. Animals from the rainforest, even though that's a habitat thousands of miles away, we get so much from the rainforest that those animals are protecting us every single day as well. And it's really about teaching people, opening their ideas and their minds to the fact that animals have a really important job and affect us on a daily basis. And adults are really as excited, if not more excited sometimes, for the opportunity to see these animals up close and learn about them. It's not an opportunity most of us had when we were growing up and going to school. And so it's a really special, unique thing for adults to get to do.
Okay, but what do they do?
What do? They come out and they do very similar things to what we do with the at-risk youth. Oh. We come out and we do a lot of rituals. We have a friendship fire. We talk about experiences that we've had. We have the animals come out and people learn about overcoming difficulties and about the animals that live far away. We do journaling with them sometimes. We do a lot of different kinds of exercises to really teach people a different way to view things, about giving a different perspective to their lives and the lives of the living things around them as well. So it's a broad-based program that is tailored differently each program.
Is there some meditation out in the area with the animals, within the peace and the quiet?
So we take people out into the sanctuary for some of the meditation classes. We do meditation in the backyard with adults and with young people. We have a variety of different activities to help people just sort of disconnect to reconnect with themselves and with the world around them.
And how long would it be, half day, full day?
It varies. We have some programs are 2 hours long, some of them are an entire day. So we have a variety of different programs so that it fits people's needs.
And do you go out to any companies and do these same programs?
We have done it in the past, absolutely. We have corporate programs teaching people to identify coworkers as we would identify the different wildlife. You know, if a person's personality is like an owl or like a porcupine. We've done a number of corporate programs along those lines as well over the years, absolutely.
Okay, just a final question on just you and the animals. Just, you bond with them, you can almost think like them, or?
You know, in working with these animals over the years, I don't know that I can say I think like them, but I do believe that it's changed the way I think about what I do. You know, you start to see things the way the animals do. You pick up on peripheral noise and movement. You start to notice what will make an animal uncomfortable, and so we can address it. And so part of the relationship building with these animals is learning their personalities so that we can make them feel comfortable. And so I don't know if I necessarily think like them, but I like to think that I understand them on a much deeper level than in just taking care of, you know, what they eat and what they sleep on. But it's about understanding their emotional needs as much as anything else.
Well, thank you, Michelle, for discussing these programs with us. We'll have some information up on the screen where people can contact Wildlife Associates and set up these.
Great.
So thank
you so much.
Some closing remarks from Steve.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Well, Steve, this was a great visit, but I'm told you have a story you would like to leave us with. Tell me.
One of the at-risk kids programs showed up for the day, and there was one kid who stood up taller than the rest. He was at least 6 feet tall, and the rest of the students were, you know, 5'9", 5'8", and he looked very, very angry. So I asked this teacher, and she said that he was beat up almost every day of his life by his parents, told he was worthless, and he can be very violent if he feels emotions. So I ran over and got my horse, Little Thunder, who's a paint. And I brought him out and I handed him the lead and I said, "Here, hold this." And he goes, "Why do you want me to do that?" I said, "Hold this quick." So he held it. He goes, "Why is the horse looking at me?" I said, "He likes you." And he goes, "No, he doesn't." I said, "Take a few steps, see what happens." He goes, "Why is the horse following me?" I said, "The horse likes you." "No, he doesn't." I said, "Stop, watch what happens." Why did the horse stop? Well, this went on and on and on around this whole yard, and all of a sudden he turned around to say something to me, and Thunder, the horse, put his head in his chest. The kid started crying. I said, "Why are you crying?" He said, "I've never been loved before."
Wow.
Could you imagine that?
Yes. Oh, wow. Well, we thank you for this wonderful, wonderful environment for all these animals, and we thank you for taking care of everybody, and we'll see you on television.
Okay, thank you, Phil.
Everybody, and we'll